Hi, and welcome to Day 6. We are reading Preparing for Passover, 14-day devotional for the days from Biblical New Year to Passover by Tina Chen. Day 6, Frogs. Read Exodus 7:25 through 8:15. I'm reading from the Web US translation of the Bible. Just check that one more time. 7:25 to 8:15. 7 days were fulfilled after Yah had struck the river. Yah spoke to Moses, "Go in to Pharaoh and tell him, 'This is what Yah says, let my people go that they may serve me. If you refuse to let them go, behold, I will plague all your borders with frogs. The river will swarm with frogs which will go up and come into your house, and into your bedroom, and on your bed, and into the house of your servants, and on your people, and into your ovens, and into your kneading troughs. The frogs shall come up both on you and on your people and on all your servants.' Yah said to Moses, 'Tell Aaron, stretch out your hand with your rod over the rivers, over the streams, and over the pools, and cause frogs to come up on the land of Egypt.' Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. The magicians did the same thing with their enchantments and brought up frogs on the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, 'Entreat Yah that he take away the frogs from me and from my people, and I will let the people go that they may sacrifice to Yah.' Moses said to Pharaoh, 'I give you the honor of setting the time that I should pray for you, and for your servants and for your people, that the frogs be destroyed from you and your houses and remain in the river only.' Pharaoh said, 'Tomorrow.' Moses said, 'Let it be according to your word, that you may know that there is no one like Yah our God. The frogs shall depart from you, and from your houses, and from your servants, and from your people. They shall remain in the river only.' Moses and Aaron went out from Pharaoh, and Moses cried to Yah concerning the frogs which he had brought on Pharaoh. Yah did according to the word of Moses, and the frogs died out of the houses, out of the courts, and out of the fields. They gathered them together in heaps, and the land stank. But when Pharaoh saw that there was a respite, he hardened his heart and didn't listen to them, as Yah had spoken." Day 6, Frogs. On to the second plague, which was in a way another attack on the Nile, because it was the home of the frogs of Egypt. The presence of the frogs was not in itself unusual. They were usually seen in great numbers a day or two before the rise of the Nile, and again as it receded. Because these inundations of the Nile were so important for fertilizing the land for crops, the frogs were seen by the Egyptians as a symbol of new life and fertility, and had become an object of worship. One of their main goddesses was in fact always depicted with the head of a frog, and she was considered the goddess of childbirth and the wife of the creator of the world. In normal years, an abundance of frogs would have been considered a blessing, since they helped to control the insect population. But in this plague, their numbers were beyond record-breaking. Rather than keeping insects from crawling on the people, they themselves were crawling all over the people. And what irony that these creatures that were given credit for increased fertility and for assisting women in childbirth invaded the very beds of those who worshipped them. This is always how it ends up when we turn to false gods. The very thing we hope they will assist us with becomes the avenue they use to terrorize us. The Egyptians relied on the frogs to keep pests away, but the frogs became even worse pests. They entrusted their fertility and safety in childbirth to the frog goddess, but she invaded their beds and made their birthing chambers unsanitary. I've always found it curious that Pharaoh's magicians replicated this plague and the previous one of turning the Nile to blood. I've always wondered how anyone even knew they had done anything. If all the water was blood already, how did anyone know the magicians were doing it? And if there were already frogs coming from every direction, how did they prove they had brought more? But more importantly, why would they want to? If they were doing anything at all, they were only making things worse. No one needed more frogs or more water turned to blood. But how often do we do the same thing? When circumstances aren't going the way we want, we turn to things that can only ever make it worse, rather than turning to Yah, the only one with the power to actually turn things around. Finally, Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and asked them to pray to Yah to take the frogs away. This is significant in that Pharaoh recognized Yah, the God of Israel, as being the author of this plague. And so that Pharaoh would know without a doubt that there was no one like Yah, Moses allowed Pharaoh to set the time for Moses to pray to have the frogs removed. It is interesting that Yah didn't just have the frogs hop away, but they all died where they were. The people were forced to deal with rotting frog carcasses everywhere, to remove them and to cleanse everything. Scripture tells us in Exodus 8:14 that the land reeked of them. I can't even imagine the stench. This symbol of new life, abundance, and fertility was literally rotting all around them. Yah engaged all the people's senses to teach this lesson that He is, in fact, the one and only source of life and abundance, and that He doesn't appreciate it when we give credit anywhere else for those things. So let's examine ourselves today. Are we looking to anything other than Yah to give us abundance, a fresh start, or to turn a bad situation around? If so, confess it to Him and speak it aloud that He is the only true source of life and abundance.